All right, the Volunteer of the Year is an MUS alumnus who serves Memphis University School in a significant and needed way while seeking out opportunities to promote the interests of the school. This year, we're pleased to recognize the efforts of Rick Moore. Rick Moore graduated as a salutatorian from MUS in 1963. He went on to attend Davidson College for undergraduate studies, followed by earning his MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. As a student, Rick served as president of the Student Council, was a member of newspaper and the annual staffs, National Honor Society, and was a year-round athlete. Rick was selected to the all-county basketball first team and by his peers as being most athletic. He also received the Faculty Cup of General Excellence. Although Rick was a leader among his peers as a student, his second volunteer leadership role began in 2002 when he assumed his position on the MUS Board of Trustees. Headmaster Emeritus Ellis Hagewood shared that Rick Moore understands and values the mission of MUS, and he has always helped in making our efforts to accomplish that mission successful. With his time and resources, Rick has been instrumental in making MUS the reputable institution it has become. By serving as a founding member and past president of the Lynn Society, which is named for Colonel Ross Lynn, his stepfather, and as a volunteer mentor for students in our Counseling Services Department. He is also a member of the Crest and Cornerstone Society by virtue of naming MUS as a beneficiary of his estate plan. During his time on the board, Rick served on both the Athletics Committee and the Buildings and Grounds Committee, providing leadership to two aspects of the school that he knows so well. In 2017, Rick retired from his position on the MUS Board of Trustees, capping a 15-year run. Rick is past chairman of Lehman Roberts Company and has been recognized numerous times for his contributions to his industry. His accomplishments and dedication to his personal and professional life have set an example of strong leadership for our MUS community. Rick and his wife, Carrie, have 5 children and 14 grandchildren, including 1 current student and 3 alumni. Rick, will you please join me to receive a token of appreciation from us?
Well, I certainly want to thank the Alumni Association for this. And you picked a great year to honor me with this, because that means that's 55 years since I graduated from MUS. And maybe more importantly, it's 2018 is also the 50th wedding anniversary for Carrie and me. And you all left out in that generation where we have 5 children. We have a son and a son-in-law, Richard Moore and Alan Halliday, who are MUS graduates. 3 grandsons have already graduated from MUS, being David Nelson, Nick Begorgas, and Richard Begorgas. Andrew, who's in the 11th grade, is here with us. We have 3 more grandsons, but you're going to have to wait a while. They're 10, 5, and 1. But we do expect them to come here. But looking back on what MUS has been involved with our family for 3 generations reminded me what my stepfather told me, and probably while I was at MUS, that none of us are educated or worship in institutions that we created. Therefore, we have a responsibility to see that those institutions continue so that future generations can receive the same benefits and opportunities that we did. So it's always been an honor and a privilege to serve and work with MUS, and I greatly thank and am very humbled by this award. Thank you.
The Alumnus of the Year award is given to an MUS alumnus who exemplifies community leadership and personal integrity, personifying MUS's guiding principles of developing well-rounded men of strong moral character. Edward Felsenthal is this year's recipient. He graduated from MUS in 1984 and matriculated to Princeton before continuing his studies at Tufts and Harvard and earning degrees from all three. As senior at MUS, Edward served as editor of the student newspaper, the Owl's Hoot. And under his leadership, it was one of the largest student organizations on campus. While at MUS, he participated in a variety of clubs and activities, but most notably, he played a part in every written publication the school produced: the Half Hoot, the Owl's Hoot, the Yearbook, and the MUS. He has developed his career by working on such well-known publications as the Wall Street Journal, where he served as deputy managing editor, and later as executive editor of the Daily Beast, among others. Edward joined Time magazine in 2013 and was recently named editor-in-chief, where he oversees the domestic, international, and tablet editions of the magazine, along with Time.com, Time Mobile, and Time for Kids. Edward's career has had a significant impact on digital content growth and media brands like Time, Money, Travel and Leisure, and Southern Living, to name a few. Fellow Owl and editor-in-chief of Southern Living and Coastal Living, Sid Evans, class of '87, refers to Edward as a digital genius in a world where it can be tricky to translate content from print to digital in a way that is still entertaining. No doubt, Edward has achieved great things professionally, but his lifelong friend, Robert Davis, class of '82, shared his thoughts about a side of Edward that makes him most deserving of this award today. According to Davis, who is with us today, don't trust Edward with your keys or your cell phone. Odds are he will lose them. Don't trust him with taking you somewhere you need to be. He'll likely be late. Don't trust him with directions. He'll probably get lost. But when it comes to trusting Edward as a friend and a human being, there's no one you can count on more. The Latin words on the MUS crest, veritas honorque, truth and honor, are an apt description of how Edward leads his life every single day. I can think of no one more deserving of this award than Edward, not only because of his professional accomplishments, but even more importantly because of his character and how it exemplifies everything that MUS stands for and seeks to instill in its students. I'm proud of Edward and proud to call him my friend. Well said, Robert. Edward and his wife, Allie, have 3 children, Luis, Sophie, and Eric. Please join me in recognizing our 2018 Alumnus of the Year, Edward Felsenthal.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy, and thanks to the Alumni Board for this honor. I appreciate what Andy said about my academic career, but what I really always wanted to be was, like Rick Moore, the all-county basketball. And most athletic also escaped me in my career. Things turned out pretty well, but there were, see, this is why I'm not on the All-Star basketball. Things turned out pretty well, but there were a couple of close calls for me in my career at MUS along the way. In 1982, I was called into Coach Peters' office for about excessive partying at the state Latin tournament. I'm not making it up. And then in '84, I was called into Mr. Thorne's office about an editorial we had published in the Owl's Hoot, which is why I have this big book. I brought it with me today. It was a 400-word expose decrying what was clearly one of the great issues of our day: overly harsh penalties for the late return of materials to Hyde Library. And I'm just going to quote from it. Books overdue cost 5 cents per day with the added penalty of Saturday school. Audio equipment, that would be cassette tapes. Audio equipment's due the day after it's checked out at 8 a.m. After 8, there's a $1 an hour fine. No mention of this policy is written on the checkout card, in the U-book, or at the front desk. Also, students may not use the archives room unless accompanied by a librarian. Finally, the computers in the library are monitored to detect unwarranted video play. All of this, the editorial went on, shows total lack of trust in the students, and the monitoring of the computers verges on infringement of rights. Who wrote this? And the final salvo, the present restrictions have forced many students to forego the use of our library and use the public library instead. This editorial was accompanied by a cartoon that was done by Robert Hollabaugh, who's here today, and fortunately went on to become a urologist instead of a cartoonist. But you can come see it after. There's a picture of a boy trying to check out a book. The boy, in retrospect, looks a little like me, and a picture of a librarian who, in retrospect, looks a lot like Mrs. Hamilton, who those of us from the 80s and probably beyond will remember as the lion of the library for many years. And the caption on Robert's cartoon says, boys trying to check out the book, it says, "Sure, just chime those release forms and let us get your fingerprints." So, bear with me. The next morning, I get called into Mr. Thorne's office. I went in, I sat across from him. "Edward," he said, "Mrs. Hamilton is pretty upset about that editorial." Not making it up. I'm not upset about it myself. And I'm not going to tell you what to write in the newspaper. I just want you guys to think about being fair. He didn't reprimand me. He didn't fire me. He didn't even call me an enemy of the people. What he said was the best of what MUS has always taught. Do your best. Be honorable, be fair. And at a time of a lot of strife in our country and in our world, that simple lesson is still, as my father, who's over here today, would say, as good as it gets. I just want to, speaking of him and being up here, I hope you'll indulge me. I want to thank a few people, acknowledge a few people, and then I'll get out of the way. First, I need to thank my immediate family who couldn't be here today because it's a school day in New Jersey, but they have some messages for you. My oldest, 10-year-old Sophie, asked me to tell you about what she calls my amazing firstborn child, and she is. My wonderful 7-year-old Louise, who when I told her I was going to Memphis to receive an award, said, "Is it the award for the father who travels the most?" I'm not making it up. I also have a 1-year-old son, Eric, who said to tell you truck and puppy. And my wife, Allie, a talented nurse practitioner who does so much for others and for our family, and who keeps me humble by pointing out the irony of my having this job when, as Robert said in those remarks I did not pre-clear, I leave my keys in the car overnight. I go to the wrong airport terminal, as I did this morning, to get here. My parents are here, and of course I owe them both more than I can ever say. My dad taught my brothers and me always in the most confidence-inspiring way that we could do anything we set our minds to, and also to try and do something that helps others as he has all his life. My mother is actually the smartest person in the family. No offense, Dad. The late sports columnist George Lapidus once said to me, she doesn't know this, that she's the most content person he had ever met. And she's instilled all of us with an appreciation for what we have, starting with our family, past and present. Robert, whom you heard from a minute ago, Mr. Omenson used to mistakenly think that Robert and I were brothers. He would say, I'm enjoying having your brother in class. We're not brothers, but it feels that way. And Robert, thank you for your friendship and for coming here all the way from LA for this. And finally, Mr. Askew, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Haygood, who all really touched that you came today, who are as great a teacher as I've ever had anywhere in my career and have become great friends as well. I think a lot about the past in my work and my life. I think it's part of being a Southerner. It's also very much part of my religion. So I'll close. Rabbi Harry and Jeannie Danziger are here today with a prayer that I heard for the first time this weekend, and that I think applies to all of us who appreciate, as I know we all do, what MUS did for us and what it frankly does even better today. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. So I just want to say thanks for those moments and for this really wonderful honor.